Strangers, let's get something straight. No one doubts me more than me, okay? That's why I don't ask for a lot of feedback on these videos. You know, I know when things are bad. I know when I'm poorly framed. I know the audio quality should be better. I know every bad edit. I could point to you every flaw, miscalculation, and failure that has ever occurred on this channel. I've made videos with factual inaccuracies, tilted frames, audio desyncs, improperly edited footage. I have, on 2 occasions, edited, rendered, and released a video only to realize later that I had left some footage in the back of the editor, and so I'm lying in bed when someone just comments, "Hey, I really enjoyed it, but I was wondering why you left 6 minutes of muted and cropped Death Note footage at the end of your video." And so I jumped out of bed and pulled the video. And then that happened again a year later. Earlier this year, January Wyatt forgot to move the mic out of the shot. And this is all from videos that got made. I can't tell you how many dozens or hundreds of hours of work have been flushed down the toilet due to losing an SD card, fat fingering a button in Vegas, losing footage, corrupting footage, failing a torrent, infecting my computer, not being able to find the right footage, By the way, on this channel, assume that I have the technical and internet capabilities of a dyslexic 80-year-old. I hate everything I've ever made. By the time a video comes out of editing, I've had enough time to look at it and think about it that I've already thought of a dozen ways to rewrite it to make it better. Generally, there's a 4 to 6 month period after I make something, which I'm marginally proud of it, maybe, but after that I basically think everything I've ever made is trash. I have never put out a video without major reservations, so you don't need to tell me what's wrong with things. Complicating matters is that this channel is not about truth or fact. I am here to persuade, to convince, to make my audience understand a thing the way I want them to understand it. And if that means bending the truth or omitting a certain point of view, fine. I don't care. I'm here to do what I want. But in this case, there's a flaw in my argument that I actually find interesting, so let's dig into it. And this is where I tell you that this video is a follow-up to the video I made about The Last of Us, so if you have not seen that video, you should watch it, otherwise this will not make any sense. Woo! So in that video, I argued that a lot of the artistic value of the game came from it being a very linear experience. Players are shepherded through a very specific series of experiences that are intended to evoke very specific emotions in the player and create a very specific interpretation of the game's events. I think you're supposed to align yourself with Joel. I think you're supposed to kill the other 2 doctors. And if you align yourself with Joel and you get swept up in the moment, I think you're in for a transcendent emotional experience. I think you'll feel a lot of powerful emotions. I think you might cry. I highly value those kinds of experiences, and I like to recommend them whenever possible. And I argue that this was the point of the game. But what if you, don't align yourself with Joel? What if you're really off-put by him, don't like him, it's disgusted by his actions? What if you're not efficiently charmed by Ellie and you're not swept up by the emotions of the game? What if you don't kill the other 2 doctors? What if you resent the game for making you kill the first one? You're gonna have a very different experience. Now, I think that experience will still be interesting and valuable, but it's going to be very different. I know a lot of people who are a lot colder towards Joel than I am. I know people who are kind of sickened by him, who see him as a manipulative psychopath. And I want to be clear, that is not an incorrect interpretation. I actually agree with a lot of that. You see, humans are biased people. You can think that someone is objectively immoral or bad and still like them. I think that's an argument that The Last of Us makes. And I would bet quite a lot of money that there is a celebrity or a politician out there that you like, despite being quite sure that they're objectively a bad person. But you just can't bring yourself to hate them. Don't feel too much shame for doing it. We all do it. I do it. Humans basically never operate along traditional morality. I am quite biased in Joel's favor. On the surface level, Joel is an older, competent white guy, and as a white guy, I see him as somewhat aspirational. You know, there's a lot to like. He's old and strong and gruff and strong and competent and silent, and he works with his hands, and he knows a lot of stuff, and he takes care of business, and he's strong, and he plays guitar, and he's strong, and I have a lot of daddy issues. On a more concrete note, I tend to really enjoy characters that society would traditionally deem bad people. Even within the medium of video games, like, I really enjoy immoral, nasty, violent people. To me, they're often interesting and tragic and way more sympathetic than they should be. Because I'm a terrible person. Zooming out, I am biased towards The Last of Us in general. As a critic, I like to prioritize emotionally powerful experiences, and I tend to enjoy more character-focused stories. This is a game that just pushes a lot of my particular buttons, and that combines with my enjoyment of the main character, that I think that, you know, if we were to make a spectrum, I am on a far side of that spectrum, where I really like Joel, I can come to forgive him even recognizing his flaws, and I care about him and I think he's a cool character. And maybe some people would be on the other side of the spectrum where you're just fully disgusted by him and you think it ruins the game for you or whatnot. But most people are going to end up in this sort of middle part of the spectrum. You know, seeing Joel's pain and seeing him heal is going to make them more sympathetic, but knowledge of his sins is going to cause them revulsion. And, you know, there's a reason that the game ends with Ellie having to make a similar decision whether or not to like Joel. Because, like, even with all of the conflicting information she has, because, like, this is what it's about, guys. It's like good writing. But again, people are going to have different experiences. Some players might feel railroaded by the game's linearity, you know, like forcing your hand at cheapening the emotional impact. Some people might find the audio tapes within the hospital level that reveal that the Fireflies are a lot less professional and perhaps a lot more evil than originally thought, and that might color their view of events and whether or not Joel is really dooming humanity with his actions. But rewinding, if the point of The Last of Us is to bring you to a particular emotional experience, and it fails to do so, does that make it a bad game or a bad story? What? I don't think I really believe that. You know, I think the game does gamble a lot on that. But losing that gamble does not necessarily put it in a bad place or it isn't valuable. Okay, let's say that I showed you 6 movies. You know, I showed you Arrival, Mad Max Fury Road, Her, Finding Nemo, Forrest Gump, and The Shawshank Redemption. These are films that many people find emotionally powerful. I think they're all really well made and emotionally impactful to a general audience, but you'll probably gravitate towards some of them over the others. You know, the rest might pull on your heartstrings, but one might make you cry. One might put you off for a reason that's kind of personal to you, you know, something that you find problematic, or you have like a different experience with the subject matter than other viewers. Coco is a very well-made film. I think it's beautiful. I think the music adds so much to it. I think it's very emotionally powerful, but the film suffers from being incredibly predictable, especially if you've seen a lot of Pixar movies. And a lot of people, you know, might watch the movie and think it's great or it's good or above average, but not like, you know, the greatest thing ever. That's my opinion of Coco. And yet when I saw this movie in theaters, I cried. I was sobbing when the credits rolled. That is because this movie helped me process the loss of my great-grandmother. I have a unique and biased view of the movie. It hit me in a very specific place. This is a film that I think is like less well made than other movies, but I had a stronger emotional reaction to it because of a random biased take on the subject, a relationship that I had, a need that was inside of me. I have a friend. His name is Logan. Here is a picture of the two of us being completely heterosexual males. Anyway, Logan is a big fan of art house movies. He's always finding obscure and foreign films to watch. He finds this movie on Netflix called The Lobster. He loves it. He gets me to watch it. And I think it's an interesting and charming, but ultimately hollow piece that just really didn't get there for me. Well, Logan watches it and he finds it profoundly beautiful. It fucks him up. For weeks, he can't get it out of his head. Why did we see the film differently? What is that factor, that X factor, that variable that's changing the outcome? I call this the emotional wild card. And critics, no matter how good we get at analyzing shot composition, color theory, musical score, acting subtleties, plot construction, the emotional wild card is always going to make our jobs difficult. When I was taking off my training wheels as a critic, I was really insistent in trying to rank and score everything I came in contact with. It really helped me organize my thoughts, and it was also part of the influences that I modeled myself after. These days, I've lightened up on trying to always rank and grade art because I think that allows me to be less rigid, but I'm still not sympathetic to people who say that practice has no value. Those who want all art to have the same value, want it all to be unique and amorphous, want a take it on its own merits approach. I'm not saying never do that. To be clear, I think there's a lot of value in that lens. It's a lens that some people should do. It's a lens that I do at times, but I think that if you do that always, you can forget that art is, on some level, mechanical. Art is made out of techniques, figure ground differential, reverse key lighting, sound bridges, 3-act story structure. These are all brilliant and cool techniques that developed over time and can be taught, improved, refined, and commented on. Some deep Wyatt lore for you. Before I became an artist and an analyst, I was a chemistry student. And I hate to break it to you, but a lot of art is equations, and some of those equations are far more elegant than others. But there will always be a part of art that can't be written down, a quality that throws off any cowboy that tries to write it, that bucks categorization and evades every rule of natural law. There's this part that's effusive, uncapturable, from human creation, and yet resists human understanding. That is the emotional wild card. You can never be exactly sure, how someone's going to emotionally respond to a work. You can get good at evoking certain emotions. You can get down to a formula. You can get incredibly skilled, but you can never get there 100%. And this makes sense, right? Because the one thing that will be always outside of the artist's control is the person consuming the art. You can never predict people. People contain endless multitudes. They hold different moralities and positions. They contradict themselves. They're hypocritical. They hide things from themselves and others. They lie. They lie so often they don't even know it. I lied earlier in this video. Earlier I said that I think The Last of Us wants you to align yourself with Joel, murder the other two doctors, and begrudgingly forgive him in order to reach the game's true emotional heights. That is not true. It's not false either. It's a claim, it's a hypothesis, it's a lens through which I decided to analyze the work. Now, I think I can provide a lot of evidence for why that lens is compelling and interesting. That was the point of the previous video, and I did the best job that I could. But, what do I know? I don't live within the heads of the developers of the game. It's likely that they intended for the player to have a few different responses to the ending. I think they were fully aware that people would see Joel in different ways. I think that's part of the reason that you have extremely limited control over his actions at the end of the game. Games aren't always supposed to make you feel good. You know, it can be extremely valuable for art to draw out negative or different emotions. There are some people who prioritize those kinds of experiences. I mean, just look at horror fans. You can run into a snag, though, with the fact that most people like things that make them feel good, that make them happy, make them satisfied. I think Naughty Dog made a decision that they knew would sour a significant amount of people, and I think that was worth doing. So why did I make this video? What is the point of this long and winding road? Well, for one, this channel's gone on for a pretty long time. It's gone pretty far. It's about to go way further. And I think at this point, I need to make it abundantly clear that when I analyze something, I am not putting forth fact. I am explaining my theories and elucidating what I find interesting. I am putting forth my biased perception of the work. I will prioritize things that come up strongly on my emotional wildcard. And if you and I share that wildcard outcome, I think we're going to have a great time. But if you don't, all I can ask is that you just sit back and try and understand the best you can. Hopefully enjoy the production and skill of the video. My most popular video is a video about Roy Mustang, a character that a lot of people care about, and I explained why you should care about him and why you're right for having so many. I basically just validated tons of people, right? More importantly, I cannot express your view of a work for you. If you have a take or a synthesis or a theory on something that I or no other analyst has covered, make that video. I look forward to watching it. This video has been a bit of a mess. I have been eating ramen out of a bowl this entire time and also drinking lemonade. It's a weird day. I have to go to work after this. Oh yeah, I'm sure that's still in fashion somewhere. I have been Wyatt the Word Weaver. Follow me on Twitter. And share, subscribe, do all the things that make me good, feel good, suck my dick. I like when people do that. Yeah, and thanks for watching. Y'all be good. Okay, is it? Do the stuff. Recording, okay. Oh, 32 minutes. Okay, great. It's not that bad. Here's the little. Yeah. Oh, okay. Ooh. Ah. Thing in my eyes. Why are you still here? Ishmael. Great. You do realize that none of this year's videos have gotten any views whatsoever. Do I look particularly ignorant to you? I just want to make sure that you're focused on the timeline is progressing as I promise, everything is fine. The book was going well. The books are in play. Everything is in play. I can do all of it. You know I can do all of it. You should focus on the book. I am. It's what he would have wanted. He didn't want much of anything at all. Look, are you questioning my leadership? My role is only to advise, and to make sure you don't forget. I will not forget why I'm here. Or who we are. Or that either. But will you just let me get back to work and do what you brought me in to do? That is all I've ever asked, Weaver. Good.